A brand new day dawned over Aurora City. The storm that had raged the previous night was gone, leaving the city's inhabitants bustling about with their everyday lives. It was early afternoon, the sun shining brightly overhead, when an old red station wagon pulled up to the sidewalk on the northern side of town. The passenger and back doors sprung open, and out tumbled Winona, Jaida, Coco, and Ellie. As Winona slid out of the passenger seat, she turned to the driver, her father. He was a light-skinned man with short, curled blonde hair and a neatly trimmed bit of facial hair. He wore a brown coat over a crisp white t-shirt and blue tie, paired with jeans and brown shoes. Capping off his look were a pair of gray glasses perched over eyes that mirrored Jaida's own. A bright, unnatural orange, a lasting mark from the incident. "Thanks again for driving us, Dad," Winona called out as her friends waved. "Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Specs," Coco added, earning a nod from Winona's father. "Anytime, girls. Just remember, don't talk to strangers and overspend the day. But above all, have fun," he said with a smile, watching as Winona closed the door. With a wave, the station wagon pulled away from the curb and disappeared into the city's traffic. "He really needs to shave," Ellie commented as the group of four started down the bustling sidewalk. "Yeah, his facial hair is kind of patchy," Coco agreed. Jaida trailed slightly behind, her eyes wide as she took in the sight of the giant neon-lit skyscrapers that towered around them. "You two really don't have filters, do you?" Winona asked, raising an eyebrow. "Says the one with the famous Nona switch, my dear sweet Noner," Coco retorted, earning a soft ha 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 from Ellie, her face barely breaking into a smile. "Hey, my Nona switch comes in handy when it comes to any tense situation. Assignments, conspiracy theories, scripts, news articles, making new ideas, figuring out math codes, writing, especially writing. Did you know that in terms of 10 to 13 people? See? Just like that. That's exactly what we mean." Ellie sighed as Winona continued to list off things her rambles were supposedly good for. "Okay, you can stop. Nona. Hey, Winona. You can stop. Hey." Coco giggled, trailing after Winona, while Ellie looked back to Jaida, who was still silently observing the city around her. "Yo, Cookie Crumbs. What's the matter? You look like a lost puppy in desperate need," Ellie asked as she casually moonwalked backwards to stand beside her. With a flourish, she wrapped an arm around Jaida, snapping her out of her trance. "Huh? What?" Jaida asked, looking up at Ellie. "What's wrong? Where's your bubbly self we all love?" Ellie questioned as they resumed walking towards the large mall in the distance. "Oh, it's just... Look, I have a lot on my mind right now, okay?" Jaida admitted. "Me and Nog had a really deep heart-to-heart last night, and if you want me to be real, I feel like I'm being tugged, I guess." Jaida confessed as Winona and Coco returned to her side. "Is this about your angel stuff?" Ellie asked, her voice laced with genuine concern. "Yep, but hey, you remembered the name," Jaida replied with a genuine smile. "You insisted, I listened," Ellie responded with a wink. "Since when do you ever listen?" Winona asked, her tone back to its usual playful self. "I only listen to my friends, as I am now." "So, what do you mean by tugged, Beanie?" Ellie asked, patting Jaida's head and squashing her beanie down. "Well, last night after our conversation, after my talk with Knock, I've been starting to wonder about what I should really do with my life. I still feel as though school isn't for me, or at least I think," Jaida mumbled, placing a hand atop her head. "Now I just feel like a total trash bag for making you all worry. But at the same time, who else is going to step in for the city? I just Jaida grumbled as Ellie rubbed her shoulder reassuringly. Hey, look, forget what we said last night. How about we all just take a nice day to ourselves? Right, ladies? Ellie asked, glancing at the other two girls. Yeah, totally. Let's have some fun. Winona said with enthusiasm, as Coco nodded in agreement. Okay. Thanks, guys. Jaida said, a wider smile spreading across her face as they approached the mall in the distance. The building was a large dome structure, swarming with people. A large sign proclaimed the words, Emerald Wings Shopping Center, designed with two large butterfly wings protruding from either side. As they approached, Coco pulled out her phone and began scrolling through her socials to help pass the walk time. An article in particular then caught her eye, making her audibly huff. Hey, have you guys heard about what happened last night? She asked, showing the girls her phone. On the screen, an article blared. Bridge catastrophe. Unknown entity and night-like figure duke it out. Below, a video of an ANN News chopper's footage played, showing the chaos that had unfolded. Oh yeah. It looks like Aurora had another worst for a moment. Ellie said, as Jaida eyed the screen curiously. Wait, I didn't hear about this. Who or what is that? Winona asked, pointing at the helmeted figure in the video. Looks like there's a new hero on the block. Didn't they save... Coco trailed off, as the footage showed the scene where the mysterious knight saved both Kot and Jamie. Yeah, they talked about it all morning. Jaida said, perplexed. For every night I've been out here, I've never seen anything like them. Either of them. She added, crossing her arms and focusing on the alien creature in the video as well as the knight. That weird floating thing, whatever it is, it messed up the whole bridge. No wonder why we had to take the long way. Winona muttered, scratching the back of her head. You know, for someone who is hoops and heels over this kind of stuff, I'm surprised you didn't know. Ellie said, slightly amused. Hey, I may be interested in the weird things in this world, but I am not a screen freak. Winona replied, as Jaida bit the inside of her cheek, thoughtfully. I'm gonna have to look more into this later tonight. Whatever that thing is, it's giving me all sorts of bad vibes. Jaida said, feeling her angel duties calling to her. What about old blue guy? Any thoughts? Coco asked, raising an eyebrow. They're definitely on the right side by the looks of it. Although I still have way too many questions. Jaida mentioned, looking back towards the mall. Look, let's discuss this later. I really need to clear my head. She then said, choosing time with her friends over the city. For once. Right. Let's go. Coco said, gesturing towards the mall entrance, with renewed energy. They all made their way into the bustling parking lot, ready to leave behind the city's troubles, at least for a little while. However, it seemed the world had other plans. Suddenly, the ground beneath them quivered, then lurched. A collective gasp swept through them and the surrounding crowd, as the city shuddered, gripped by what felt like a violent earthquake. What the heck? Winona cried, her voice barely audible above the rising tremor. Earthquake! We have an earthquake! Coco exclaimed, her eyes wide with fear. Without warning, a jagged crack ripped through the pavement, snaking forwards with terrifying speed. It all began at the mall. Jaida, reacting on instinct, threw herself against her friends, pushing them sprawling away from the spot where the earth was about to split. They scrambled back, watching in horrified fascination as the ground slowly began to separate. The surrounding buildings groaned, car alarms began to blare, and the city's lights flickered erratically, plunging Aurora into a disorienting strobe. What the hell is happening? Ellie shrieked, her usual cool demeanor shattered by sheer panic. Jaida's head snapped to the side. The crack in the earth pulsed with an eerie orange light. Wisps of shimmering static-like particles arose from the seam, drifting skywards like escaping spirits. What the hell? She stammered as a new sound emerged, a deep, resonating thud. Then another. The wall itself began to shake violently, rattling from its foundations. People immediately poured out of the doors, their faces etched with terror. Jaida, her friends, and the bystanders all turned their gazes towards the building. Thud! 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 The glass dome atop the mall erupted into a shower of shattered shards, and cracks spread across the building's wall foundations like spiderwebs. Thud! 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 The mall had become a monstrous egg about the hatch. And hatch it did. Bursting through the roof, a giant crystalline hand, glowing with an orange inner energy, reached skywards. 4 sharp fingers unfolded, as if grasping for the heavens, before slamming back down onto the city. A shockwave of energy rippled outwards, shaking Jaida and her friends to their core. Silence descended, broken only by ragged breaths, as a colossal being composed of the same orange crystal material began to pull itself out of the mall, emerging from a swirling portal of light that appeared to have opened within the foundation itself. Slowly, agonizingly, the creature's other arm and hand emerged, tearing apart the side of the mall. Debris rained down as the being fully emerged, planting its feet with bone-jarring force, standing to its full, terrifying height. It was 50 meters tall, a monolithic giant dominating the Aurora skyline. Its form was humanoid, but twisted and wrong. Its body was a jagged construction of orange crystals, with overly large forearms, slender, bent legs, and crystalline spikes protruding from its shoulders, elbows, head, and legs. The tips of these spikes, its fingers and feet, shimmered with a white light that bled back into the creature's orange core. The head was sharp and angular, featureless, save for a single glowing orange orb of an eye, surrounded by a corona of red static. Upon its pelvis, emblazoned for all to see, was the same diamond eye symbol that adorned the monochrome's helmet. A guttural roar ripped from the creature's non-existent throat, shaking the very air. It swatted its arms, demolishing the sides of nearby buildings and crushing cars. The city, moments before a scene of everyday life, was now a chaotic storm of running figures and piercing screams. Jaida and her friends, frozen in awe and terror, began to back away. The creature's head swiveled, the single, terrifying eye fixing upon them. Jaida? I think now would be a really good time to go angel mode. Coco stammered, her voice cracking with fear. Are you sure that's a good idea? It's pretty big. Winona added, her body trembling uncontrollably. I've seen bigger. Jaida mumbled, distractedly fishing her cloak out of her backpack. Wait, really? Ellie asked, her eyes widening disbelief. Are you joking? No, it's massive! Jaida bellowed, her bravado crumbling under the sheer scale of the threat. The creature's eye suddenly flared to life, unleashing a searing beam of light that hurled towards them. The girls froze, their faces etched with dread as the light descended. They braced themselves for oblivion. But then a figure, a blur of motion, leapt in front of them, intercepting the deadly strike. In a blue gust of energy, Jaida and her friends were blown back and away from the Goliath's energy strike. Shouts and gasps ripped through their throats as they tumbled, a chaotic flurry of limbs and pastel fabrics, until they skidded to a jarring halt. They then pushed themselves up onto their knees, chest heaving, and raised their eyes. A collective gasp echoed among them. Jaida's eyes widened, mirroring the awe and disbelief reflected in her friends' faces. There he was, the knight, Voyd. He stood as a mysterious guardian, appearing to have materialized from the chaos itself. The spark, his mask deployed, jaw clenched tight, had summoned a double pair of Nova runes, fusing them into a shimmering, energy-laced barrier. He was a small figure against the looming threat, but he stood firm, visibly straining to protect the awestruck girls behind him. With a guttural grunt, Voyd unleashed a concentrated blast of energy from his hands, launching the Novarune barrier forwards. It struck the crystalline monster with a resounding impact, a taste of its own medicine. The beast staggered back, its immense arms flailing, catching itself against the sides of two buildings. Voyd himself took a step back, gasping for air. Every moment spoke of exertion, but he wasted no time. In a flash, his blades deployed from his gauntlets, gleaming alongside his arm blasters. Jaida, Ellie, Winona, and Coco were frozen, fear warring with astonishment. Slowly, they rose to their feet. Jaida, barely audible, mouthed the words. It's you. Voyd remained unresponsive, his masked face tilted downwards, his eyes fixed on the reapproaching behemoth. A single word, gruff and urgent, broke through the silence. A command they couldn't help but obey. Run. Come on, let's go! Ellie shouted, grabbing Jaida's arm and practically dragging her along. The others followed, a desperate sprint away from the unfolding battle. Seeing them clear of the immediate danger zone, Voyd finally moved, mirroring the beast's advance. The monster slammed its right hand into the ground, an earth-shattering blow that erupted into a geyser of jagged orange crystal spikes. With inhuman agility, Voyd twisted and leapt with a whirlwind of motion, dodging the lethal projectiles. Finding purchase on the creature's arm, he surged energy to his feet, using it to propel himself upwards. Ignoring the dizzying height, he began to ascend the beast, looking like an insect crawling across its sharp form.
Voyd, this is the other glitch we need to destroy the close the tear.
Jet's voice crackled in his ear. Voyd, scrambling across the creature's shoulder, spun and unleashed a whirlwind of strikes, his energy blades slicing across the beast's head. The attacks barely scratched its crystalline hide. Obviously! He shouted back, falling back to the earth, opening a portal beneath him and rocketing back out onto a nearby rooftop.
It's been a while since you faced the Gigabyte. Remember, its weak points are the eye and the heart behind its crystal chest.
Jet boasted. The creature roared, pivoting to slam its fist into the rooftop Voyd had just occupied. With a backhand spring propelled by his arm blasters, Voyd deployed two small, round devices from his arm plates. These weren't flashbangs, but containers of his own spark essence. They impacted on the monster's hand, detonating in blasts of searing blue energy. The beast roared again, stumbling backwards. Raising his arm blasters, Voyd unleashed a volley of crystal blue energy pellets, targeting the Gigamite's cyclopean eye. The creature bellowed in fury. With another deafening shout, it lunged, grabbing the sides of the building and attempting to tear it down. Knowing civilians were inside, Voyd summoned two small Novarunes and hurled them at the Titan. They struck, but barely made a dent. The beast reached for him again. As it did, Voyd retracted the horn guards on his helmet, exposing them into the light. A shimmer of blue energy crackled around him as he unleashed a pulse, driving the beast back yet again. Without a moment's hesitation, Voyd leapt forwards, plunging his blades into the creature's hide. Using them as handholds, he began to climb towards its chest, struggling to reach the vulnerable heart hidden beneath the crystalline armor. Back on the ground, Jaida and her friends had found a semblance of cover on the outskirts of a city church, huddled behind large pillars adorned with angel statues. "That is one scary-ass creature!" Ellie exclaimed, breathless. Did you see that mark on its body? It's the same one that weird alien thing had on the bridge. Winona gasped, adjusting her glasses. Coco hunched over with her hands on her knees, wailing. What the hell is happening? Jaida swiftly slid on her knees and ripped open her backpack. Tossing aside its contents, she pulled out her cloak and began to put it on. Oh my god, you can't be serious, Ellie cried. Jaida's face was a mixture of fear and determination. Whoever that night guy is, they can't possibly take whatever that thing is on alone, she said, summoning a large cosmic hammer to her hands, one that nearly dwarfed her own body. Jaida, are you crazy? Coco wailed on, as a deafening crash echoed outside. They turned their heads to see the knight, spinning through the air like a ragdoll, sent flying by one of the monster's blows. Ellie, call your dad and make sure the force is careful. Winona, contact your dad too, as well as knocking. Jaida stuttered. Coco? She added, looking at the frog who was trembling. I don't know, I have to go, Jaida shouted as the monster began to move on, heading further into the northern side of Aurora. Oh god, don't be dead, Jaida whispered, teleporting atop one of the angel statues, gazing in the direction the knight had fallen. She saw him crash into the city's central park. Oh god, they might be dead. She winced, and with a sharp warp, she vanished towards the park. The landing was anything but graceful. Voyd slammed into the earth, a violent tumble ending hard in a heap of dust and debris. The monstrous creature's rampage had kicked up a storm of crumbled stone and grit, dousing the city into a cloud of gray. From somewhere beyond the immediate chaos, police sirens wailed, a discordant symphony underscored by the thudding roar of helicopters overhead. A cacophony of screams, a terrible song of fear, rose from the heart of the city. Pushing himself up, Voyd coughed and hacked. His head throbbed. Through the settling dust, he could make out the faint outlines of trees and shrubs around him, defining the small, debris-strewn clearing where he had landed. He groaned, rolling his aching arms. Ugh, that hurt. He took a heavy, measured breath, trying to regain his bearings.
Miraculously, you haven't received that much damage. Except bruises. Lots and lots of bruises.
Jet's voice crackled in his ear. Noted, Voyd replied, his voice strained. But then, he swiftly reactivated his blades. Around him, flickering static portals winked into existence and vanished just as quickly. From these tears in reality emerged grotesque figures, the humanoid glitches, animated by an unnatural, jerky gait. They were the ones colored in shades of corrupted purple and angry red, shambling towards him like zombies. The same horrors his mother had fought during their descent. Scrap and heap. Prowlers! The tear's effects are getting stronger! Voyd exclaimed as a knot of dread tightened within his stomach. We gotta take out that source and fast! He braced himself, ready to face the approaching horde. But before he could strike, streaks of searing orange light shot from the surrounding smoke and debris. Fiery arrows, sharp and precise, pierced through the air, each one striking down a glitch with deadly accuracy. Voyd gasped, stumbling back, his eyes wide with shock. Whoa! He cried. The remaining glitches, their corrupted attention now diverted, turned towards the origin of the attacks. Another arrow blazed through the air, followed by another. Then, a new anomaly materialized. A swirling vortex of orange energy. It moved like a boomerang, a blade of pure star-like light surging through the air in an upright motion. The wind it generated cleared the remaining smoke, revealing the source of the attack. The energy plate swept around Voyd, dismantling the remaining glitches as the sword spun back. Jaida, with her cloak concealing the majority of her appearance, launched herself into the air, catching the energized blade with practiced ease. In a single fluid motion, she slashed downwards, cleaving the last monster in two, scattering it into a shower of shattered energy. Voyd took another step back, his eyes wide behind the mask. Before him stood the Phantom, a figure he recognized instantly. She stood to her full height, her energy sword held firm at her side, radiating power. Their blue and orange eyes met, and as the last of the dust settled, Voyd took in the scene. The clearing was surrounded by a vibrant tapestry of lavender flowers and gracefully swaying trees, a pocket of unexpected peace amidst the urban chaos. The world seemed to fall still as they assessed each other, a mutual fascination evident in their gazes. Voyd tilted his head, a silent question in his posture. He slowly retracted his blades, the familiar hum fading away. Jaida mirrored his action, dissipating her sword with a flick of her wrist. "It's you." Voyd spoke first, the words a low murmur. Jaida's head tilted in response, mimicking him. "The one and only. May I ask who you might be?" She shifted her weight awkwardly, crossing her arms in an attempt to project an air of authority that didn't quite fit. Voyd, with a sharp intake of breath, snapped his head towards the distant sounds of destruction. The Gigamite continued its rampage, a terrifying reminder of the escalating crisis. Looking back at Jaida, he gave a curt nod and placed a hand to his chest. A friend. I'm a friend." The words were barely out of his mouth when a deafening boom ripped through the air. Both of them swiveled, their gazes drawn to the sight of the Gigamite swatting down a helicopter like an annoying insect. "Crap!" they both exclaimed in unison, the shared sentiment sparking a fleeting moment of camaraderie. They looked at each other again, a spark of understanding passing between them. "All right, friend," Jaida said, her tone laced with a mixture of curiosity and urgency. "You care to tell me what's going on and why these things are suddenly invading the city?" As she spoke, Voyd was already typing a complex code into the interface on his arm plate, a display of technological prowess that drew Jaida's attention. "I don't think right now is a good time for explanations," Voyd said, his voice tight with urgency. "But to keep this short, if we don't destroy that big fella, more of those zombie creatures and bigger beings like them are going to start appearing and tear your world apart." Jaida's eyes widened, her initial expression of shock morphing into one of baffled disbelief. Voyd began to turn away. Whoa, wait, what? What do you mean by..." she stuttered. "Like I said, it's not a good time. But I've seen your work from the papers, Phantom. I could use the help. Otherwise, I'll be here for a long while and a lot of people could die." Voyd's arm cannon materialized, its sleek form and charging energy hummed with power. "I know this is sudden, but I could really use it," he added, his tone softening slightly, tinged with desperation. He then shot open a portal, a shimmering tear in reality that hung in the air between them. Jaida stared, mesmerized. "Whoa! Yeah, totally," she agreed. "Also, please call me the Cosmic Angel, and when this is done, I want an explanation." She summoned her massive hammer back to life, the weapon materializing in a swirl of energy. Nodding, Voyd gestured towards the portal and hopped through without hesitation. Jaida, still reeling from the rapid-fire events, took a deep breath and followed him, stepping into the unknown with a nervous hop. The portal spat them out, a disorienting tumble into the city teetering on the brink. Voyd and Jaida plummeted, aiming for a skyscraper's roof. Jaida gasped, terror lacing her voice. Voyd, fighting back his own rising panic, focused on survival. The titan of crystal and rage whirled on them instantly, its clawed hands slashing. Reacting instinctively, Voyd seized Jaida by the waist, hauling her close. With his free arm, he intercepted the monster's attack, gripping its hand and using its momentum to swing them both down, landing with a jarring thud on the rooftop. "Holy crap!" Jaida exclaimed, scrambling to her feet. "Aim for the eye in the chest. Blinding it is one thing, but we can only take it out by the heart." Voyd barked, already pulling out 2 grenades from his bag. He hurled them at the beast, the explosions erupting against its crystalline chest with a muted roar. The crystal fractured slightly. Okay? Jaida responded, her voice laced with nervous energy. She darted forwards, a surge of power flowing through her legs. Leaping into the air, she spun, her hammer a blur, and brought it crashing down upon the Titan's chest. The crystal cracked further under the force of her blow. The impact sent her bouncing backwards, landing awkwardly back on the rooftop. Without hesitation, Voyd lunged forwards and caught her mid-stumble, setting her gently back on her feet. Good! Just like that! He encouraged, a small blush blooming on her cheeks. Oh, thanks, she stammered, before grabbing Voyd and warping them both out of the path of a searing energy beam from the monster's eye. They rematerialized atop another building, leaving the giant momentarily confused. Voyd, despite the chaos, was captivated by her abilities. Even Jet struggled to analyze her power.
Fascinating,
he murmured, more to himself than to Voyd or Jaida. So, you said my world is a danger, not ours. Are you like some kind of alien? Jaida asked, her brow furrowed. The monster, recovering and hearing her voice, swiped at them clumsily. They dodged, Voyd executing a fluid backflip, Jaida teleporting a short distance. Kind of? Voyd replied, landing lightly on the beast's shoulder. Jaida appeared beside him on the opposite side. Whoa, wait, seriously? I was just joking when I said that! She exclaimed, slamming her hammer against the monster's eye. It's a long explanation. Like I said, I'll explain later. Voyd repeated, channeling energy into his fist and delivering a powerful blow to the creature's eye too. They waged a relentless back-and-forth assault, hammering at the monster's weak points, forcing it to stumble and roar in frustration. But then, a new element entered the fray. From below, a barrage of heavy fire erupted. Armored SWAT vehicles, bristling with mounted turrets, screeched onto the scene. These vehicles unleashed a torrent of red plasma-like bullets into the creature's legs. With a deafening roar, it swayed, kicking the vehicles aside with brutal force. Enraged, the creature spun, its massive hands snatching Voyd and Jaida. They were slammed together, cheek to cheek, in an uncomfortable position. Like a baseball pitcher, the beast hurled them through the air, sending them spiraling across the city skyline. Jaida screamed, fear seizing her. Voyd, however, remained focused. Through their dizzying trajectory, he spotted the building they were hurtling towards, A&N, emblazoned across its top. They were heading directly for the top floor. Thinking quickly, Voyd summoned a Nova Rune, wrapped his arm tightly around Jaida, and braced for impact. They crashed through the glass windows on the top floor, landing in a heap on a large boardroom table littered with papers and spilled coffee. Gasps and shock erupted from four figures already in the room, who had been observing the battle from afar. Voyd and Jaida scrambled to their feet, disoriented and bruised. One of the figures was Mason Sato, his face a mixture of panic and fury. Next to him stood a tall, striking woman with pink skin and hair, adorned in a teal dress and a delicate beaded necklace, a Starsight human. Beside her was an even taller woman with average pink skin, dressed in a crimson business suit, her face hidden behind a dramatic, red-colored hairstyle, an average human. The last figure, slightly shorter than the others, had yellow skin, dark hair pulled back into a ponytail, and a shocked expression etched on their face, another average human.
I knew it! I told you that freak was in cahoots with the Knight! What have you brought upon our city, you demons?
Mason shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the two kids. With a flick of his wrist, Voyd summoned a Nova Rune that sealed Mason's mouth and mustache shut. Ugh, you talk like you write, he muttered, earning a giggle from Jaida. Turning back to the window, they surveyed the ongoing havoc, wreaked by the monster. Okay, you gonna do that portal thing again? Jaida asked, as the other women in the room began to help Mason, although failing. Voyd was already in motion. He gripped both sides of the shattered window frame, his muscles tensing as he extended his arms back. I can't, They need the recharge. I already used 2 of them, and I can't waste my 3rd. It's gonna sound weird, but stand on my belly. What? Jaida asked, her voice laced with disbelief, but she obeyed. I'm gonna launch us back at the beast. The high velocity and the combination of our powers should be enough to expose its heart. Voyd exclaimed, his eyes beginning to glow with energy. You got any other cool tricks up your sleeve to break it open? Jaida looked down at her hands, a flicker of determination in her eyes. She nodded, encasing her hands in gauntlets of starlight that burned with fierce intensity. That'll do, Angel, Voyd said, preparing to launch. That'll do, he said, as Jaida braced herself upon him. With a mighty grunt, Voyd released his grip. They shot through the air, aimed directly at the monster, who was slowly turning back to face them, its injured eye sputtering with light. Together, Voyd and Jaida drew their fists back, Jaida's burning bright orange and Voyd's shimmering sapphire blue. They lurched forwards, unleashing their combined attack. A blinding flash of light erupted, their respective colors merging into a vibrant purple in a brief, earth-shattering moment. A shockwave ripped through the city, and both Voyd and Jaida blacked out, only for a moment. The duo both came to with a hard slam. Both Voyd and Jaida were met with a brutal reintroduction to the ravaged streetscape below. The energy surge might have cushioned their fall, but it was a far cry from painless. Jaida landed hard on her left side, a choked gasp escaping her lips as her cloak tore and her side was scraped against the broken asphalt. Pain, a familiar companion, flared anew. Voyd fared slightly better, his back absorbing the initial impact before he spun into a belly-down slide. Years of brawls and hard landings had hardened him. He pushed himself upright, his gaze immediately finding Jaida, who was struggling to gain to her feet. Hey, you okay? Voyd called out, his voice tight with concern. But before he could offer a hand, a deafening roar echoed across the debris-choked air. He rolled around. Looming above them, the Titan, battered but unbowed, lumbered forwards, each footfall shaking the ground, its shadow a suffocating blanket. As it drew closer, Voyd could see the now exposed, pulsating, crystalline heart beating weakly beneath its shattered chest. Just a few more hits, he told himself, a grim determination hardening his resolve. The Gigamite then reached up and snagged an antenna, ripping it from the nearby roof of a building, its base still bearing the faded logo called Notorious Industries. With a sickening screech, the Titan lowered the antenna and began to drag it across the street, preparing to use it on Voyd and Jaida. Hey, friend, Jaida gasped, her voice a mere thread. Voyd's attention snapped back at her. The turret! On the SWAT car! She pointed weakly towards a mangled vehicle, its roof caved in. With a visible effort, she flicked her wrist. The car shuddered, groaned, and righted itself with a screech of tortured metal from a warp. That should be enough, she finished, each word laced with pain. Without hesitation, Voyd sprinted to the SWAT car and clambered onto the roof, his eyes scanning the turret's controls. With a sharp hiss, the weapon sputtered the life. It ain't no dragon, but it will have to do, Voyd called, his fingers finding the targeting mechanism. He then aimed the turret at the approaching Titan and squeezed the trigger. A spray of crimson plasma bolts erupted from the weapon, slamming into the Titan's chest. The monster stumbled, a guttural shriek echoing from its mangled form, and it pressed onwards, each footfall bringing it closer.
Voyd, it would appear the turret has a built-in charge feature. It seems to load based on the amount of plasma you release.
Jed's voice crackled in his ear. A large, flashing button materialized on the console, right in front of his hands. Without a second thought, Voyd slammed his fist down on the button. A concentrated bolt of vibrant blue plasma then released, slamming into the Titan's chest, causing further destruction. The crystal heart was now half exposed, its pulsations growing weaker. The Titan growled, its advance unwavering. It raised one massive clawed hand, attempting to shield itself from the relentless barrage. Voyd pressed the attack, unleashing another charged blast. The blue energy sheared through the Titan's makeshift shield, severing the arm and sending it crashing to the ground with a thunderous boom. The monster staggered, momentarily thrown off balance. But it continued onwards, reaching out. Its makeshift blade was raised high, ready to strike. Just as Voyd was about to retaliate, the turret sputtered, emitting a grinding noise, and then died. The weapon locked solid, the screen flickering uselessly. No! Voyd gasped, his voice raw with frustration. The Titan loomed, its crystal heart fully exposed, pulsing weakly. It fully raised the makeshift blade high, preparing to deliver the killing blow. But before the Titan could strike, a blinding flash of orange light erupted from Jaida's direction. A bolt of pure energy shimmered like a miniature star, slamming directly into the Titan's exposed heart. The crystal shattered into a million fragments, and with a final, agonizing roar, the Titan began to dissolve, its massive form crumbling into shards of rock and crackling static energy. Voyd whirled around. He saw Jaida standing on wobbly legs, an energy bow dissipating in her hands. She met his gaze for a brief, intense moment, then collapsed onto her side, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The dying monster was forgotten. Voyd didn't even spare it a glance. He vaulted off the SWAT car and rushed to her side. His only focus was the girl who had just saved him. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the distance, urging Voyd to act swiftly. With a surge of adrenaline, he slid to Jaida's side and gently scooped her up. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape. And then he spotted the church not far off. He quickly conjured his last portal, the shimmering blue swirling into existence before him. He leapt on through, carrying the injured angel with him. They re-emerged within the church's barren holy hall. Stained glass windows casted a mosaic of colors across the floor, bathing them in a golden light despite the somber hues of the glass. Hey, Angel, are you okay? What's wrong? Voyd's voice was laced with concern. He activated his helmet scanner, and a moment later, Jet spoke.
There is a deep gash on her side. It is bleeding heavily.
Voyd's gaze followed Jet's analysis, confirming the severity of the wound. A crimson stain was rapidly spreading across Jaida's side. He could see the pain etched on her face. Hurts a lot. She gasped, wincing as her fiery orange eyes met Voyd's sapphire glare. With utmost care, Voyd gently rested Jaida against a cold marble pillar. Kneeling before her, he assessed the situation. Okay, you're bleeding pretty bad, but a part of your cloak is in the way. I can heal it, but you're gonna have to remove this piece. He gestured to a section of her flowing cape that was connected to her belt, secured in place and tucked tightly. Jaida hesitated, her breath catching in her throat. But you'll see my face. The words were barely a whisper. Is that a problem? Voyd asked, his voice laced with genuine curiosity. He seemed neither malicious nor judgmental, only focused on her well-being. Jaida paused, grappling with her internal dilemma. Should she trust him? She searched his masked face for any sign of deceit, finding none. No, it's not. She weakly reached up, attempting to unclip her hood, but her injured state prevented her from succeeding. Sensing her struggle, Voyd gently reached out, his gloved fingers taking over where hers failed. Slowly and carefully, He pulled back her hood, stopping abruptly. He locked eyes with one of the sweetest, most beautiful faces he had ever seen. Her orange eyes, filled with pain and vulnerability, met his visor. A nervous, half-hearted smile flickered across her lips before she averted her gaze, turning away with her eyes and smiling awkwardly. Shaking himself from his captivated state, Voyd resumed his task. With deliberate movements, he removed the hood, revealing the smooth, purple fabric beneath. He then cautiously lifted the freed fabric and the turtleneck sweater section, exposing the gnarled skin on the side of her stomach. Okay, this is gonna sting a little, but this will get you back in shape in no time, Voyd said, gently placing his left hand around the edges of the wound. Suddenly, his palm ignited in a soft, ethereal blue light. Jaida winced, instinctively reaching out to clutch Voyd's arm for support. Ah, she said. Sorry, Voyd apologized through the helmet's speakers. Jaida then shook her head, her grip loosening. No, it's okay. It's feeling better now. After a few more seconds, the wound began to visibly close, the gash knitting itself back together, leaving only bloodstains and a small scar in its place. Jaida released his arm and let out a relieved sigh, gazing at her now healed wound. Whoa. How did you... That's incredible. Voyd looked on silently, still captivated by her beauty. He'd never seen anyone quite like her. Who are you? She asked, breaking the silence. Voyd gently looked away, a strange feeling blossoming in his chest. It had been so long since he had spoken his name aloud. Voyd. I'm Voyd Novison, he whispered. Jaida. The angel replied softly. Jaida Woods. Silence fell between them again, thick and heavy with unspoken questions. Could I maybe put a face to the name? She asked, her voice barely a whisper as she gently reached for Voyd's helmet. Voyd froze, his gaze darting to the side. I don't think you'd like what's underneath, he muttered. I'm not from your world, and my face will probably just freak you out. Jaida paused, her hand hovering near the smooth metallic surface. After a moment, she slowly got onto her knees and reached out again, her determination evident. Voyd remained still, watching as Jaida's delicate hands caressed his helmet. Jet, sensing the significance of the moment, partially deactivated, retracting the horn plates and unclipping the helmet as a natural one would. Jaida paused with a flinch to the sudden change, but then she gently took hold. Slowly, she pulled Voyd's helmet off, revealing his bright blue eyes and snowball freckle-riddled head bathed in the golden light. As Jaida lowered the helmet, their eyes locked again, orange and blue, with faces mixed in awe. Jaida set the helmet down beside her, tilting her head with curiosity. Hi, she breathed, a small smile gracing her lips. Hi, Voyd replied, though his voice was a bit shaky. He looked away again, suddenly self-conscious. Slowly, Jaida reached back out and placed a hand on Voyd's cheek. He flinched, unaccustomed to such a gentle touch. With soft pressure, she turned his head back to face her, a silent offering of compassion. Why, you're not terrifying at all, she said, her eyes tracing the contours of his face, his tired face. Where on earth did you come from? Voyd slowly raised his hand and wrapped his fingers around hers, gently lowering it away from his face. It's a long story, he said. Suddenly, the weight of exhaustion crashed down upon him, and he felt himself swaying. Voyd? Jaida asked, concern coloring her voice as he slumped forwards.
Oh dear. It would appear the lack of sleep is catching up with him. About time. He needed the rest.
Jed's voice chimed in, startling Jaida. Did you just talk? She asked with a point towards the helmet, her eyes wide with surprise.
I most certainly did. Greetings, Miss Jaida. I am Jet, Voyd's personal AI companion.
Jed exclaimed. Voyd groaned, barely conscious. The tear, he mumbled. The tear. And with that, he passed out completely, falling onto his side. Voyd! Hey, Voyd! Jaida cried, shaking the unconscious spark. Jaida? A new voice called out, making the angel whirl around. There, standing with wide eyes, were her friends, Winona, Ellie, and Coco, all of whom looked to have taken shelter in this part of the church and had clearly witnessed everything that had just transpired. What in the hell did we just witness? Ellie asked, her voice laced with disbelief. Jaida, ignoring them, turned back to Voyd and struggled to lift him into her arms. Did you just have a heart-to-heart with an alien? Coco questioned as the friends approached.
Technically, he and I guess I myself are aliens, but not from the stars. He is a being known as a spark, and I spark technology,
Jet declared. Ellie picked up the helmet, examining it with a weird look. Huh, she muttered, confusion clouding her features. Jaida looked down at the unconscious figure in her arms, her heart pounding in her chest. She needed answers, and fast. Girls, back to my place. Now. She spoke with a newfound resolve, the light from the stained glass windows now shimmering around them, a certain patch of which shining purple upon Voyd and Jaida.